This one is really close to the heart. I have been called cheap by some of my friends, and at first I was so angry and hurt, and I was like, hey there my handsome and pretty little Cobras, and welcome back to the Cobras Nest. For those of you who are new, my name is Mignon Cobra and I make minimalism videos. Today's minimalism video is going to be 5 unpopular opinions, and I'm going to be talking about cheapness, frugality, minimalism, and attractive privilege, or pretty privilege. So without further ado, let's just get into the video. Let's get it, let's go. Woo! Okay, so I got this idea by watching The Financial Diet. If I do find the video, I'll include like the picture stamp here and the link below. And I know The Financial Diet, she has made it kind of clear that she thinks that minimalism is something that's quite privilegey and trendy. And I thought it's interesting because I didn't end up in a place of privilege till I became a minimalist. So maybe there's some truth to it. But anyway, let's just talk about the topics and what do I think about it. So yeah, let's talk some unpopular opinions. Number 1, cheapness. This one is really close to the heart. I have been called cheap by some of my friends, and at first I was so angry and hurt, and I was like,
I'm not cheap, I'm just good with my money.
But the truth is, I think that cheapness and minimalism sometimes do have a little bit of overlap. I'm not sure if it's like which came first, the chicken or the egg, but I have definitely found that minimalism has definitely exasperated or emphasized my cheapness. And I want to defend myself, and I do try to think that I try to be frugal and be good with my money, and I'm not trying to be cheap. Like, I usually don't cut corners and I'm not frivolous with it, so I feel like those things make me frugal rather than cheap. But yeah, I think in some aspects minimalism kind of gave me a gateway to kind of be cheap. So there's a lot of things that I would cut from my
life where I was like, I don't need it. And
was it minimalism? Was it cheapness? I don't know. So I could give you guys some examples. Sometimes my food bill would be one area where I would cut a lot. I'd be like, I don't need that. I don't need junk food. I don't need ice cream. I don't need milk. I don't need eggs. I don't need bread. And I think that sometimes I laugh when people say that minimalism, it's not laugh, but like I'm amused that people are like,
minimalism is something that the rich have created to be trendy, when this is
just something that poor people live every day. And yeah, maybe it's true. There must be some underlying difference between being cheap and not buying something because you can't afford it versus the intentional decision not to buy it for the sake of principles. Like, there must be some sort of privilege there that I'm just not quite aware of it, because I don't know. I've been on both sides of the coin. I've not been able to afford it, and then being able to afford it because I chose not to afford it. So which one was it? The next unpopular opinion is frugality. I think that frugality is kind of given a bit of a better rep than being cheap, but I see that a lot of people also rag on being frugal, like, oh, like so thrifty, that's so frugal, like it's almost like synonymous with being poor. And I think that's such a pity, because I think being frugal is a really useful tool. I don't think we all need to be frugal all the time. I think that it was best said by Angela Baby that our lives are up and down of like, when we spend more, and sometimes we spend less, and not everybody's going to agree with me. I think a lot of people might argue that my frugality might be in the realm of cheapness, but what are you going to do? I have found a lot of benefits from being frugal, that it felt right. It felt really nice to see like the money add up at the end of the month and at the end of the year, that it just kind of made logical sense to me to continue to flex my frugality muscle and my financial freedom muscle. I can't always be frugal, but by that same coin, not being frugal at all, I think is financially unhealthy. The next unpopular opinion is minimalism. What's my take on it? I have seen a lot of controversial videos, and one video that I always wanted to get around to and I never have is this idea that minimalism is a privilege, or this is something that rich people can indulge in. Every time I heard that, I was like,
how?
I don't get it. Like, for example, a lot of people argue that you're a minimalist, you don't buy things, and that's stepping on the feet of poor people because they don't buy things either, but not out of choice. It's because they don't have enough money to be able to buy it. So it's a bad thing that you're being a minimalist choosing not to buy it when somebody else truly can't buy it, which I think is interesting. So where do we get into the realm where, what if a poor person intentionally decides not to buy things? Could they be setting themselves free and joining the ranks of like the upper class, because they too have chosen not to buy the same things that rich people have decided not to buy? It's very interesting that a lot of people call minimalism very hypocritical, but is it hypocritical when poor people take on minimalism? Are they now emulating the rich who were emulating the poor? Like, where does this fun house of mirrors end? Is it just, I know that I have a biased opinion here because I'm of that camp. I used to be poor and I became a minimalist, and then I'm not saying I became rich, but definitely way better off than I was when I was originally just poor and wasting all my money. So I think there must be some truth to it. If minimalism has a bad rep because the rich mimic the poor. I think good, because I think that the poor should also mimic the poor because it will make them rich. There's a saying by Robert Kiyosaki that is, the rich stay rich by acting poor. If that's the case, then I think that we should all embrace a little bit more minimalism then, so that it's not just a privilege, but rather a luxury that people can indulge in. The poor can indulge in it, and so can the rich. I think it's free for everyone. It shouldn't be a class thing, but if it's gonna be, then let's utilize it as a tool to better all of our financial lives. And the next one that I want to talk about, unpopular opinion, is this idea of pretty privilege or like attractive privilege. If you guys have seen like those TikTok trends where it's like,
tell me you have pretty privilege without telling me you have pretty privilege.
And I was watching those videos, I was just like, I was shocked. I was like, this is a thing? And I kind of wanted to talk about my take on it, because when I was younger, I was, not to say that I am now, but I didn't look conventionally pretty when I was younger. Growing up, I was overweight, and I don't think I was what the standard of beauty was growing up. I never experienced pretty privilege till I started to become more conventional. I lost weight, I grew out my hair, I got LASIK, I started wearing makeup. And did my life become easier? It did, it really did. And it really reinforced the notion that, wow, there is pretty privilege. But I didn't think of it as pretty privilege. Rather, I saw it as life's easier when you're pretty. Like when you make that effort to look a certain way that others consider good looking or attractive, it pays off. Because I'm laughing because it's just so ridiculous. I didn't think that this was going to happen. I essentially just, let me stop laughing. I had set out to become more conventionally attractive because I just wanted a boyfriend. I didn't think that my life would also get better. So what I'm trying to say is, it's a really unpopular opinion, this notion that pretty people do get better things because they're better looking. And I'm not saying I'm that either, but I definitely do think that this is something that's real. And it wasn't until I became prettier, let's just say prettier, I definitely got treated a lot better by people, both men and women. Like people would hold the door open for me. It was always like really small tangible things, like people smile at you, people just generally treat you better. And I don't know if it's like on a conscious or subconscious level, but I want to argue as somebody who got to a place that I'm happy with my looks. It takes effort. I know there's a lot of people out there who are just naturally pretty and it's just God-given, but I'm not speaking for them, but I'm speaking for those of us who have worked on our appearance on our own. Watching your diet takes effort. Going to the gym takes effort. Buying makeup costs money. That takes work. So is it to say that it's really pretty privilege? No, it means like, I think it's because you took care of yourself and so you look better and people can see that. And when you look like a slob, it means you don't even care about you, so why should others? Well, what does that mean in terms of like minimalism? That was actually one of the things that I had to kind of come to grips with, was that I had experienced pretty privilege for about 10 years, like since I had like my glow up in university. And then in my minimalism journey, which was in med school, and having to declutter this notion that like, to take my reliance off that pretty privilege. I've made a lot of videos on like my makeup rehabs where I had to let go of this notion of being pretty, because it was a really strong advantage that I didn't want to let go of. Like I didn't want to go back to having to struggle the way that I did before. I wanted to keep experiencing the benefits, and that was something that was really difficult for me and has been like quite the journey to kind of untangle my self-worth from that, because I remember what life was like before I became conventionally prettier, to getting to a place where I'm going to rely on my talents to take me where I need to go and not my looks, and to let go of that fear that people are still going to like me regardless of my external physique. Okay, so those are my takes on unpopular opinions. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye!